All right, gang. Are we ready to talk Wonder Woman 1984?
Let's do
Yes, sir.
this.
Wow, the enthusiasm. I feel like we are in the exact opposite space that we were 3 years ago when we were all sitting around at the was that the Icon that we did that our Wonder
I
Woman
think so.
2017 roundtable? I believe so.
Is that where? Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah. So that's
Wow.
we're bringing the gang back together. I've got Earth's Mightiest Critics assembled here for a special look at Wonder Woman 1984, which just came out in theaters Christmas Day and is also available on HBO Max. I'm here with David Fowley of Keeping It Real, Don Shanahan of Every Movie Has a Lesson, and Emmanuel Noisette of EMan's Movie Reviews. I, of course, am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. That's, you're here. You're watching my channel. So thank you. If you like what you're seeing here, please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We'll be here all week, as it were, and probably till the end of time, or at least until YouTube is no longer a thing. So I wanted to just kind of kick things off with a little bit of information from you guys, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole viewing window of when Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be available on HBO Max.
Teacher.
Okay.
It should be already.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is, but isn't it? It's going off on the 24th of January or something like that.
31 days.
The
31.
simultaneous thing was only for a month.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
30. It started the 25th, and if you're good with math, count off 31 days. Yeah.
That'd be the 26th of.
So late January.
Late January.
Okay.
It'll go back to theaters,
Mm.
Yeah.
and then whenever that run is done,
Right.
it'll go back to probably HBO Max.
So by February 1st, it'll be back on HBO Max.
Sure, why not?
I mean, I'm
And
thinking probably Blu-ray release April.
Hold on. Let's aim a little faster. Criterion released maybe September, right?
Wow.
Wow,
Right?
what are you
Wow.
smoking?
I-
You have your own little magic dreamstone.
I do.
I like whatever Don is drinking for sure is the same color as that gemstone.
I'm drinking
kidding.
Tennessee whiskey,
Oh wow,
ginger
you
beer,
you
and a dash of orange curacao. So having a good
is that
time.
You are
is that
not messing
called
around.
something?
Is that what? Yeah,
that
this is like,
called something.
What is this called? There's like a whiskey, like a ginger whiskey. I guess it'd be a mule, but I throw some orange in there for fun. So I'm sure there's a cooler name for it.
You call it
Okay.
the Maxwell Lord. You're getting
Dennis-
drunk on power.
Themyscira ale.
Sure.
Hey, speaking of Themyscira, that's where we kick off 1984,
Hey.
Wonder Woman 1984. I guess this would be before then. So, yeah, there's Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot. They're back. They're showing us this mystical land of Amazonian warriors in some kind of like their version of the Olympics, I guess. And
Yeah.
young Diana is competing against adults. I mean, she's like a little kid competing
Like
against
10.
yeah. And she learns a very valuable lesson. Now, first, I should mention, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I do want to get this out of the way. We are going to be talking spoilers throughout this entire thing.
Like
So-
everybody else.
Yes, and I just want to mention that because some people might be looking for a place. I want to find out about Wonder Woman 1984, but not with spoilers. You've come to the wrong place. We're going to talk about everything here. So she learns a very valuable lesson. She takes a shortcut because she loses the horse that she's on. There's like jumping and swimming and horseback riding and running and spear throwing
Yeah.
and arrows and stuff. So she takes a shortcut. It's unclear to me that she felt like she was deliberately cheating. She just really wanted to finish, and she just kind of like, took the path of least resistance. She comes to find out, thanks to Connie Nielsen, who pulls her back from winning the entire competition, to say, no, you didn't. You took a shortcut. You cheated. That's no way to. It's cheaters never win. Winners never cheat.
Technically,
David.
that was Robin Wright.
Was that Robin Wright?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Connie Nielsen was up in the back.
Yeah.
They're all just kind of
And then-
blondes
and
with
then
weird
Connie
accents at a certain point.
And then Connie Nielsen joined her and consoled her
Right.
child.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's what moms do.
Mm.
Guys, was that cheating? I thought it was kind of resourceful.
I actually thought she was gonna get cool points for what she did.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, you kind of okay,
Yeah.
thinking on your, but
She didn't lie.
No.
She just skipped a move, right?
Like, did she
Well-
miss like 2 smoke points?
I think
of the
she
little
missed a
arrows
smoke
and-
point. She missed one
of
smoke
the
point.
points, the checkoff points. Yeah.
But it's like, dude, already you're competing against adults.
Mhm.
All right.
Mm,
She's
Yeah.
also a demigoddess, so
I mean,
Yeah.
sure, but
it's kind of cheating in nature.
but I mean,
Yeah.
Look, it's like if you drive 10 miles over the speed limit, you are breaking the law, right? But you're not going to go announcing that to a cop if you pass them by. Like, hey, I want to call attention to the fact that I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But
It
if you get
reminded-
busted for it, you get busted
yeah.
for it.
Yeah. It reminded me of the beginning of Last Crusade with River Phoenix at the end, where he's like, "You lost today, kid," puts the head on, but it doesn't mean you have to like it. And then we get the 1984 jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a
Jump to-
good look. Every time they do the mascara stuff, which I actually think are usually the best parts of both movies, they do a really good job of tying in those lessons learned
Yeah.
into building the character of Diana. And I think they're really good gateways for audiences to sit here and be like, oh, this is why Diana is the way she is today. And I think that part they do very well.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
let's face it, nothing is being said about her other superpower that this movie kind of establishes. Well, every appearance of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman has established is her memory for being almost at least 100 years old. I mean, she's got a good memory as she's sitting there recounting her experience in Themyscira. It's like, okay, so this morsel of a lesson about, maintaining the truth and staying away from lies was at least over 100 years ago, or at least 100 years ago. That's a good superpower to have, is have that kind of memory. I wish I did,
Well,
but like you said, she's a demigoddess.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, help me out here, because we see that scene. I don't know that was her recounting or even remembering it. I feel like that was just meant for the audience because that sets up the central theme of the film.
She is narrating it though.
Yeah. It is a memory
was she?
verse.
As the movie opens, she's like, "I recall my past." And
See, I
Okay,
take it
I
to
missed
be.
that. I missed
I
that
take it to
completely.
be centuries at the rate of how old she is and how old they've been around. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's 100 years. I think it's centuries. At this point.
Probably. Yeah, you're right.
So for the Amazons, that like a couple hundred years might be like 15 years for us.
Right.
But it is just weird because the first movie, she left Themyscira, the island.
Mhm.
Okay, and then she went to, bam, World War One.
Mhm.
So it could be centuries ago, but
yeah, they do
Yeah.
live like in a weird bubble.
yeah,
So-
right.
Time is probably
Yeah.
different. Look,
Mhm.
at the end, and this is going to be a recurring thing. Magic is
Comic
the ultimate
books.
gimmick and plot device.
Correct.
So,
Especially for a
almost
girl made out of
any
clay.
issue that juxtapose logic, put magic right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, when we get to 1984,
Mm-hmm.
Diana is living and working in Washington, working at the Smithsonian. She meets a newish coworker played by Kristen Wiig, has a very strange name. Edward Nigma, I think was her name.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, was it Gilly? No.
Oh,
No?
that's right.
That would have been
Did
awesome.
she work at Target before working at the Smithsonian?
She's
Target.
like,
Is she the one upper? Because
Yeah,
I feel like I just
she was
watched
also a
Kristen Wiig.
faded Broadway star who keeps showing up
Barbara
on game shows.
Minerva.
Minerva.
Barbara Minerva,
Is
yes.
she one of the Californians?
Doctor.
Okay. Because I think all I watched was Kristen Wiig, being Kristen Wiig.
Now, that is certainly true for the first, I think half
2
of the movie
hours and
that she's
28
in.
minutes of the
No, she did a lot more with this character
Yeah.
later on
We'll get to it,
than
we'll
she
get
did than she did, I think, initially. Now, a lot of the issues I think I might have with Kristen Wiig's character come down to the screenplay and not necessarily
For sure.
her as an
No,
actress.
she's
I feel
an
like
inspired choice to put there for sure.
yeah, Patty Jenkins co-wrote this script, so I don't know
Jeff Johns, I believe.
with Jeff Johns.
Johns,
Yeah,
you got
Jeff
the,
Johns and David.
it's the
Callahan?
young guy who's doing the it's the guy who's doing Spider-Man into David Callahan, who does Spider-Man into
Yeah.
the Spider-Verse.
Callahan.
He's doing Shang-Chi Legend of the
Like
Ten Rings and
Spider-Ham?
Mortal Kombat too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, so here's the thing. Her character is the mousy, nerdy, can't get a date, just totally uncool. But I think, Don, was it you who just referred to as Dr. Barbara Minerva? She seemed to have. Oh, okay, David. I just so many cross-talking voices, but
So many middle-aged white guys. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
I know, right?
nice. But she is a doctor, and I understand there are people who grow up kind of insecure, but she seemed straight up like maybe a 18-year-old like insecure 80s college girl, like something out
Yeah.
of a sitcom, and
80s.
not a doctor. Yeah, I get it's
Very
1984,
typical
but there's
introvert.
right. I'm like, she doesn't have anything else kind of going for her, and she seemed very wrapped up in like finding a man. But given that she's living in a version of Washington, D.C., where just about every man, like literally every guy in the street she encounters is like whistling, "Hey, baby," or trying to sexually assault her. I keep
who?
wondering to Kristen Wiig. Like
No.
she,
No,
yeah,
not
she goes out.
before.
Nope.
Hmm?
Not before.
Nope.
She
No, what are you
was
talking
almost
about?
assaulted. She was
She
almost
looks-
Not
she was
before
almost-
she
She's still-
touches stone. She's
Yeah.
totally ignored by all the guys. Or
But
boys
she's
Well,
or
still an easy
guys.
mark.
that's true.
But
Okay.
she's an easy mark for crime
Until,
and all
until
that
she
stuff.
touches
Right.
the stone and makes a wish,
Yeah.
she's
She's
unnoticed.
either right, but that's the thing. She is either ignored by people,
Yeah.
or when she she gets kind of dressed up and gets her stone makeover, she's getting whistled at and
Right.
catcalled. There's nobody who like offers to hold the door for her or do anything like
No.
chivalrous. It's all
She's
just like,
ignored.
hey baby, I want to have a good time. It's very strange. But she meets Diana and is immediately smitten. Like, I want to be you, and you're my kind of my hero, and you must
Diana's
go
the
out all
cool
the
kid.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and
blame
it's
her?
no. Well, I kind of do, because
I don't
that's
blame
where
her.
it gets it.
I
It
wanna
gets.
be Diana too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be Diana too, but there's a difference between. I keep going back to this idea of her being like a doctor and a professional and really smart, but still acting like this weird teenage character. I get this
that's
is
not
a.
uncommon. I've seen
I mean,
stuff
it's
like that. Like
yeah, socially
not a book
awkward.
smart, but socially awkward. It's,
Sure.
it's not that unheard
I
of.
get it.
And like I said, it is zero stretch for Kristen Wiig to play that.
She's
Zero.
used to being ignored. I mean, it is interesting that I wish they would have established a little bit more how she is kind of intellectually, very close
Like
to
gifted.
Right.
Diana, as far as
Yeah.
well versed in mythology and archaeology, anthropology.
Well, they
whatever.
do that later on. Again, after she touches the
little
stone, she
bit.
kind of comes into her own with the self-confidence and stuff,
Yeah.
and she's kind of like regaling people around the office with jokes and sort of minutia.
Once she has her confidence, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just something about the other adult characters in this movie are so, with the exception possibly of early scenes with Maxwell Lord, they seem very much like adults. And Kristen Wiig, I don't know if it's because of this baggage I have of her as coming from a comedic background, but she
Mhm.
sticks out like a sore thumb. I feel like if there was any other actress who was in this role playing this part, it would seem like really weird. Like, what are you doing? I feel like they
think-
could have gotten someone to play that mature, who wanted to, who was kind of drawn into Diana's, je ne sais quoi or whatever, but wasn't this, and partially it was like costuming. She's like wearing this like really pink kind of fluffy
Yeah.
80s outfit. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here.
I don't think it would have.
Go ahead,
worked
EMan.
Because I think the main reason this was obviously intentional, right? Like
Right.
you had
Totally.
to make her the socially awkward, weird, character to show the great transition or the dynamic between when she gets her powers and she's desirable and she's confident, and you have to see that contrast. Like if that element is not there, then it's kind of like, what did you really get that you couldn't
Right.
have already gotten without these magical powers or whatever? Go ahead, Don.
Well, no, for me, I know it's the Wikipedia version of homework, but that doesn't sound like Barbara Minerva either. Like, the proud, strong scientist background, the Mesoamerican, jungle roots, like that girl should be. I'm not saying she has to be an ass kicker, but she's 600 times more confident than this Kristen Wiig stuff.
The
And she
comic, yeah,
she
I think
could
the
have been
comic
reason.
version of Minerva is better developed,
Yeah.
and I think they watered this one down
Right.
to make it more digestible for mainstream audiences when they didn't have to.
No, it didn't.
And-
have
And I think
I-
that's
give me an ass kicker.
Yeah.
You want the arch enemy?
Yeah.
Give me an arch enemy. Don't
Yeah,
give
I
me.
almost think they did it to cater to what people are familiar with as far as relating a role to Kristen Wiig, working within her wheelhouse.
This is sort of what I'm getting at. I mentioned Edward Nygma, the Jim Carrey version from Batman Forever.
Mhm.
Also, whatever the hell Jamie Foxx was doing in Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's like if you've got a big comic book movie and you have this type of character, you almost have to make them a cartoon nerd in order for anybody to understand this transformation, kind of what EMan's saying. But I think a smarter movie, you could have really pulled something like that off without having to show, oh look, she's a dork TM.
Just watch David, did you watch the animated Wonder Woman?
Oh yeah,
Bloodlines, was it, or something?
Yeah,
they had Minerva in there and it was perfect.
Yeah, she was great.
You didn't need all the dorky stuff to this.
That's a good one.
You just needed someone that was like, yo, we used to be best friends, I don't like you, and now I want to kill you.
Yeah, you could show she could start out confident and resentful of the attention that Diana gets.
Yeah,
easily.
And she is a new
alpha female,
and she is a new hire, so that's interesting. But it's like even when we're introduced to her, the person who hired her doesn't even remember her. I'm like, what? She walks up to Diana. Hey, who's this Barbara Minerva? I'm right here.
They mass hire that many archaeologists.
But honestly, and this is one of my issues with the movie, and we'll get back to Barbara in a minute. But honestly, that shows the problem that's happening in this department at the Smithsonian, because she doesn't even remember hiring Barbara. And I think at least this movie, Justice League, and I guess the way the last movie ended.
Batman v Superman.
Yeah, Batman v Superman. I guess this made it seem like Diana's been working there for decades, and HR is not
look at David go on glass door on Smithsonian here.
HR is like, no.
Get your LinkedIn profiles updated, Diana.
That would be wonderful, But the problem is, and Patty already kind of admitted to this, she's diverged away from anything Snyder related, so we can't even make that correlation anymore. I mean, it was in an interview. She was just like, we just threw it away, just like fans threw it away. And honestly, I kind of think that was a mistake.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. When I read your review this week, like the fact that this movie, and I know we're jumping way ahead, doesn't do anything to plug into where we'll see her again in 2014 or whatever year we're gonna say that happens.
Doomsday.
Yeah.
None of it connects.
None.
Like at all. But not even that. I'm just saying, like, stylistically, just aesthetically. This movie, and I know this is a little bit further down the line in discussion, but this exposed to me more of Patty's contribution, because the first Wonder Woman was more of a collaboration with Patty and Zack Snyder kind of like in the background.
The fingerprints are there.
Now I see all of Patty, and I also see kind of the flaws because of it.
Like what?
And I see how Snyder's influence benefited the previous movie, and it was lacking here. But we'll get
what specific? Well, I mean, we can talk about it here. Yeah. Okay. Don, you want?
I'll do one. Music. This is Hans Zimmer coming in and poaching another franchise's score and doing a lackluster effort with it. When you take away that electric cello.
Yeah, man. What's up with that? There's hints of that at the end, but I'm like, man, I want to see that guitar riff.
So that cello girl, her name is Tina Joao, and she does the jam and electric cello that makes her perfect theme, because that's edge, that's pure Snyder. Where it's just, rocking it out. And you can still have Hans Zimmer, who's a virtuoso with percussion and getting you electronic edge and some music. And he softens it in this to be weak. That's a stylistic place where when you take away that bump, that signature theme that pops, you get a weaker sauce movie. And I don't know if that's Patty. I don't know if that's Hans mailing one in. But I was disappointed. That's one place. I'll give you another place, just the action in general. A lot of the action felt more staged than it did practical and authentic. I think one thing that, regardless of the issues Justice League or Batman v Superman may have had, nobody contests the action sequences, that Snyder brought to the table. I mean, Wonder Woman had one of the best scenes, in the movie, next to Batman. Anyway,
you mean in Dawn of Justice?
In Dawn of Justice, yeah. Because she was handling her own, and everything.
Yeah.
I don't think that action was Patty's strong suit in this, because even though I appreciate the fact that they tried to avoid using as much CGI
Or slow-mo.
or slow-mo. I mean, those things are not bad because they're
No.
used. They're just it's a question of oversaturation or undersaturation or underutilization, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that these were used very well. I mean, there were moments when she was running on the highway and I was like, are you on a treadmill? Like you just it just looks weird. It doesn't look super, you know, and you know, even like when she's saving the kids and stuff, I'm like, you guys really use the doll. Like I saw the dolls. Like, you know, and these are things that, you know, the director should handle.
Yeah.
I should notice these things, you know.
No, like I think of that sequence in Wonder Woman, like after No Man's Land, when she's doing the physics of the fights she's doing in that town, in the bell tower through the streets, the speed that she moves and the practicality of those action scenes, though, you know, still Zack Snyder slow-mo here and there, but the believability of that looks way better than your typical one long highway chase scene,
Right.
you know.
I feel like Jenkins is in her cinematographer, editor, they're good at action. You know, Zach's got a different action approach. I think I think of the No Man's Land sequence and like Don was saying, that small town, that was crazy awesome from the first movie. You know, the final act against Ares, it's kind of eye rolling, but and we repeat that a little bit here. But I think some of the action is handicapped here in different ways, because I feel like the opening mall rescue jewelry
the best Spider-Man scene I've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie.
Right. I mean, that was good, but it was almost kind of showcasing more of, hey, we're in the 80s. Yeah. You know, more than Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
You know?
It was more stage setting than anything.
Hey, here's Walden Books. Hey, there's Tape World. You know.
They're the Stranger Thing kids.
Yep. Okay, yeah. I mean, it's like that would have been a great Easter egg. It's like, there's But you know, I get right away it's establishing like we're not revealing her right away. And that was intriguing to me because she doesn't want to be seen, yet she's in a mall making a rescue and everybody's seeing her, and then she's off and away.
That is stupid.
Here's the thing here. Well, here's the thing. I think that what they're doing, if I had to get inside the mind of Patty Jenkins,
had Polaroid cameras.
Well, right, but you didn't have everybody with Polaroid cameras walking around at the mall like you do today. And I think they were trying to contrast that with that idea of how 2020 is way different from 1984.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, she could get away with that because even if you had someone going up to a TV reporter or whatever after, oh my God, there was this woman and she swept in and what was she wearing? You're gonna get 50 different people saying, oh my God, she was in a dark blue cape or she had a cowl. Oh my God, she was wearing a golden crown and a red corset, you know? So she could get away with that. It'll be interesting to see in the next Wonder Woman, which is supposed to take place, I guess, in a more contemporary setting. Well, I guess she's already out at that point, but you know, it'd be cool to see a transitional movie where she has to kind of like, oh my God, cell phones. Yeah, how do I get around this?
Well, this is why I didn't like the fact that they broke the continuity, because when we are first introduced to her in Batman v Superman, she's a relatively unknown commodity. Like even Bruce Wayne doesn't really know who she is. Yeah. But at the same time, given the context of this movie, she's talking to the whole world. Like
talking to the
entire world. Like this is the biggest Zoom call we've ever seen.
Yeah,
you know, and it's ridiculous that you know, how do we go from that to this reclusive person that no one's ever heard of?
But hold on a second. She's talking to the entire world, and it's important because
they're not seeing her, right?
They're not. They're seeing a giant glowing gold screen.
Oh, so she mind wipe kissed me like I'm Clark Kent. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, it's very much that. I mean, and the other thing is when we do see her in Dawn of Justice, she is, you know, an unknown commodity because at some point, I imagine, and this may be a few movies in between or, you know, several comic storylines, she did figure out, okay, technology is catching up with me. I really have to go underground now. I did like in the opening of this, as we're establishing her apartment in 1984, we do see some photographs of her throughout history kind of doing some heroics. Now, it does kind of make me wonder, are these confidants, friends that took these, because these aren't exactly newspaper clippings, but I think I saw her like at, you know, liberating at a concentration camp or something, because one of the big talking points at the end of the last film was, where the hell was she for the last century? I know I brought that up. I'm like, she's not very super heroic if she's just pouting over her dead boyfriend for 100 years. So that was a nice little bit of cleanup.
The photos were interesting because, you know, we see her with Lucy Davis's Etta character as an older woman. You know, that's interesting. And also a curious picture of her at Trevor Ranch.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me that after
Titanic horseback?
You mean to tell me that after Steve Trevor died, you just kind of show up at his family ranch and just hang out? And
I thought she like bought it and
I don't know,
just like taking care of it or something.
I don't know.
It's unclear. I mean, it could also be that she just was traveling and she found Trevor Ranch and, you know,
or a Trevor Ranch.
Right, because I do that. My ex-girlfriend in high school, her name was Wendy, and I do that outside of every one of the Wendy's restaurants. I mean, come on.
I'd believe it, but no, I
didn't have a girlfriend in Wendy.
But no, it's a bit different than having a girlfriend that you dated in high school versus the love of your life, and you know have this connection to her. You know, and we're talking about the action. I didn't care about that opening heist. Another reviewer I saw online compared it to, it was a very Richard Donner kind of moment, and I can totally see that. You know, it's kind of goofy. It does, you know, set up the kind of action parameters of what we're about to see, and that's fine. There is a truck, the kind of truck chase that we talked about in Egypt, I guess, later in the middle of the film, and then there's the kind of the world breaks down into chaos due to wishes towards the end. Now, all of this to say, I loved the fact that there are only 3 fight sequences, action set pieces in this movie. I could have done without any of them. Sajiwa and I were messaging because he had watched and wanted to know what I thought, and he said this is like the slow cinema comic book movie, and I agree because it is a mess. No, I mean that's a whole I could get into definition stuff, but
My Dinner with Diana.
No, that's the Woody Allen version of this movie. Come on.
There's a lot of messy kind of loose ends and kind of comic narrative threads that are left all over the place. But as far as what this movie is trying to say and what it does with the characters, I thought it was much more interesting than just having another Wonder Woman movie. I like that it's breaking continuity in the sense that it's not trying to tie in with everything that came before or like set up a dozen other movies. It really is kind of like Shazam or even Aquaman, and that it's a standalone thing. DC is still trying to work out what it wants to do. I'm kind of fine with that. When they get back into the Marvel groove of things, I am most likely going to check out because that stuff is not interesting to me.
I mean, it can be seen as a kind of one and done type of thing. I just feel like some things that were shoehorned weren't really necessary. Okay. I don't think, well, as much as I like Chris Pine, I don't think this movie needed Steve Trevor at all.
Nope. I agree. I like Chris Pine too, but that's the half-hour trimming I would do.
Because they're basically saying, guys, it works so well. How do we bring him back? How do we do that? I mean, it was so well
in the first place. They should have never killed him in the first place.
What is he going to do? He's alive and living. He's immortal in World War I. What are they going to do? Freeze him? And you know, like Steve Rogers,
you just continue.
You got the wrong Chris,
and the wrong Steve, for that matter.
Oh, so so the sequel would still be like set in the past. Is that what you're saying?
Well, here's the thing.
You're mute there. I don't know what happened.
Hit him again.
Who? Me?
Or EMan was talking, but there was
go ahead.
No.
He's still muted.
He's still muted.
We can't hear you.
I'm gonna make up words for him.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Sorry. I have like 2 mute buttons.
Oh, okay.
See.
Just use one. No, I was just saying, like, just put it in the 1960s or something. Like, I don't think there was anything that needed it to be in 1984.
Okay, on that note, this movie had to be in 1984 in order to have a mousy female character, because I don't think you could pull that off in modern day.
Sure.
And really make it work. Okay. I have type of Gordon Gekko, Donald Trump type character in Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord, and have this whole Cold War type of Russia versus US type thing. You couldn't have that really necessarily now. Like Ian said, having less technology and screens in everybody's hands is helpful. But I think that's one of the reasons why it was set in the 80s. And honestly, I think, going back to you mentioned Stranger Things, I think Stranger Things and a couple of other movies that have been placed in the 80s, that's just, it's so popular.
They're doing a zombie movie
80s.
in the middle of Walking Dead fever. Yeah, this is 2009 this is 2020 doing 2020.
Yeah, but I just don't feel like, it seems really weird.
They give up on it halfway through the movie.
They did give up on it.
Like all the gags and fun part
all
are
they
done.
included, I think they included a version of Frankie Goes to Hollywood and that party, and that's about it. There's no like 80s music necessarily, and not even Hans Zimmer, and he didn't even include any like 80s synth vibes.
No. But here's a question, guys. Is this really a complaint? I mean, in a lot of these nostalgia bond movies, we're talking about, oh my God, they played that song again, or it's just the 80s greatest hit soundtracks of everything. You guys are talking about like how the sight gags and stuff from Walden books. You really wanted more of that in this thing?
No, I don't. It's not that I wanted more of that. It's just I wanted a way in which we're actually communicating like why it's set in 84, not necessarily like
or have it inform your characters. Like I know this is a different way of thinking about it, but like the way James Gunn has the era of Peter Quill and the Mom's Mixtape define him. Define him like the 70s, 80s little yacht rock vibe.
That's always with him.
It's always with him, and it defines him. None of this defines Steve, Diana, nothing.
Because she's always going to be, she's always going to be a woman out of time, right? And so why 84? I mean, it's like an excuse to not call it Wonder Woman 2.
But not only that, I mean, I don't have a problem with that if I'm watching something like Stranger Things. Like I sit there and I'm like, oh, look at that cool little thing. Oh yeah, they would listen to
but it's
the never ending story or something.
To there. Yeah.
That's not an issue. And I think the difference when you ask like if we wanted more of it, the difference for me was there were moments in this movie I forgot we were in the 80s. Like there were just moments I just forgot. I was like, oh wait, when they go to the White House or whatever, I'm just like, oh crap, okay, this is not current day, and it probably would have just helped, but we still need more informing as to the significance of the timepiece. I mean, it's in the title, it's kind of like, help us out here. Like, why does it need to be 84? Why this specific year? Why not just 1980? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I laid out 3 instances as to why. I mean, you needed that threat of nuclear arms. I don't think you could have pulled off what they did with Kristen Wiig's character in a modern day setting. Is just like way too like dated and kind of just kind of sexist and in this 2020 environment. Seems irrelevant.
And then you get to Maxwell Lord, and again, doing my Wikipedia homework to remind myself, as much as that's not Barbara Minerva, that's not Maxwell. That's not
Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord is a pretty cool character.
I know, and he's a pantywaist in this movie.
His interaction with Diana, I mean, what it is, but that's
I don't know. You guys are talking comics that I have not read. So what's the
I don't want to say it, but
what?
No, Lord's a badass.
Well, the cool thing about Maxwell Lord is the way I was introduced to him is that he kind of got together an iteration of a Justice League roster in right after Legends in like 86 or something, and it was really cool. It had great storyline, great humor. But it was he's the guy who kind of got a roster of Justice League together.
He was like the bad version of Nick Fury.
Yes.
That's
like, a good comp.
By any means necessary, but at the same time, like I've also got like this ulterior motive and stuff. And
a total capitalist.
Yeah, but like his motivations later on get to a certain breaking point, no pun intended, where they really conflict. With Wonder Woman. And it was a very defining moment. And, this just kind of felt like a missed opportunity because when I heard that he was going to be the villain, I was like, ooh, are you guys going to go there? Are you going to go there? Because that will be huge.
Eventually there's a confrontation between Wonder Woman and Maxwell Lord that was really controversial. Not too long ago either. And I won't get into it. But, if they were going to go there, that would be interesting. And that's why this movie could have been 2 women kind of, at odds with each other in 84, minus Steve Trevor thing, minus the Stone thing. and one of them somehow turning into Cheetah, and then boom, arch enemy. And then the third movie introduced Maxwell Lord. I don't understand this need. I don't understand this need for two antagonists. I don't get it.
Look, when I tell you I cannot stand this multiple villain thing,
I don't get it.
Spider-Man,
yes.
Batman movies, it's like you got to have him go against Riddler and Penguin and the Joker all at the same time. It's like you don't need to do that because it waters down the significance of the villains and how they contribute to the main character.
Right.
Like,
imagine going longer and further with Barbara Minerva. Like,
right, but that's
instead of doing this Xerox of Michelle Pfeiffer and Catwoman, because they kind of do that.
True.
You could weave in her expertise. You can weave in her lore. You can weave in more to it. You can have her transform earlier.
You can actually build up the tension between their conflicts a whole lot more. Find out, it takes a lot for best friends to get to the point where they want to kill each other, or at least one of them.
Well, but we have to hold on. We have to set aside the fact that they are not best friends. This is not the comic book continuity, right?
But they could be.
Well, but hold on a second. But we're not. This movie is already. It's 2.5 hours long. They're dealing with a lot of things. So, I think if you're going to have a movie about just two women forming a friendship and then becoming enemies, that's not going to carry a comic book movie. That really would be the slow cinema version of this story. So I understand what they did here. And I think I got to push back a bit. I'm not usually a fan of the multiple villain thing, but I thought it was handled pretty well here in that you've got Maxwell Lord as the main antagonist after a while, but Barbara Minerva is still on Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Diana Wonder Woman's side up until very late in the picture. When they're finding out the lore of this gemstone, which, we've barely even talked about it. It's a Smithsonian rock that's uncovered. Maxwell Lord has been looking for it. He finds it because apparently it's the god of lies in, Diana's ancient Themysciran lore, put this stone on Earth to grant people wishes. But every time you put your hand on it and you wish for something, your wish comes true. But in this sort of monkey's paw tradition, it takes something. It's not exactly what you expect, or it is exactly what you expect, and that's a curse. Maxwell Lord gets this stone, wishes, I think this was a cool idea. He wishes that he could become the stone, essentially making himself the genie. And so if people want to get a wish from him, he has to touch them. It bleeds right into the world of business, which is where he comes from. Eventually the world of politics, which is all about shaking hands and kissing babies. And eventually this giant TV transmission that he's trying to do. And granted, that gets back to Batman Forever with the box and the glowing tower reaching out to touch everybody in the planet. But until very late in the movie, Barbara is working with Diana. Diana doesn't know that she has made her own pact with the stone to get Diana's powers. She said, I want to be just like her. And all of a sudden, one morning, she wakes up to get something out of the fridge, and the handle, the door comes off because she's got super strength. She's super sexy. She's super confident. She has all of this. And she is discovering that she's getting these powers, much like in the mirror story, Diana is discovering that she's losing the powers. Again, shades of Superman 2 and every other comic book movie where the hero has to give up their powers only to get them back at the end. This movie is like the greatest hits of comic book tropedom, but dressed up in this new kind of a skin. It's a cheetah print skin, granted. But I dug that. And I liked that when Barbara and Diana are having that conflict in the White House, and Barbara makes her decision ultimately to go with Maxwell Lord. That was more convincing turn to the dark side to me than Anakin versus, Anakin and Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, for sure.
I'll grant that.
And that's credit to the buildup, and that Kristen Wiig is a better actor than Hayden Christensen.
But
I shouldn't give any credence to that then. That's a great point.
But I'm still with EMan. Like, imagine if you burn that match longer, and hotter. I don't want to use the T'Challa and Killmonger dichotomy, but it's not going to get that far. But you could go harder and hotter there, and it still ends up being Moss the opposite and dominant, awesome, amazing girl.
There's a reason why she's one of Wonder Woman's primary, not a secondary, but primary arch villains. Like, there is a lot that could be worked there. Now, they didn't tap deep enough into it in this movie, but I mean, I agree. Like, Kristen Wiig did a fine. I liked her performance. Like, I thought she did.
I think she was good.
Pretty good job.
What she had
I
to
just
work
think
with.
that the writing around her character could have been much more substantial.
Sure. And here's the thing. I understand what you guys are talking about, being very invested in, several years of comics lore and characters being written a certain way. And it sounds like a very interesting way. It sounds almost like what they did, the comic book version of Two-Face, Harvey Dent and Bruce Wayne versus what we got in the movie of Batman Forever.
Sure.
But unlike that film, both Barbara Minerva and Maxwell Lord, again, heavy spoilers, are both very much alive at the end of this movie. So you can,
Fair point.
and it's uncertain what Barbara's fate is, because much like once the world goes crazy and then Diana does her super Zoom call to everybody saying, renounce your wish, we can take this all back and make things all right.
And I'm sure everyone's really going to comply, lickety split.
Kumbaya.
Well, yes.
All of that.
Yeah. And I did too, except for the fact that I did like Maxwell Lord's resolution and the humanizing of him, his reuniting with his son. All the stuff leading up to that I thought was kind of garbage, but I do like the idea that we're left with Barbara in sort of this ambiguous state. It's unclear if she's completely reverted back to her mousiness, if she's still in that kind of middle phase before she becomes the apex predator, or if she's going to be upset because she knows everything that happened. She got her ass handed to her, and how much of that resentment is going to be towards Diana, and how much is going to be for herself, because Diana she did what Superman kind of did in the end of, was it Man of Steel with Zod before he snapped Zod's neck. She went right up to the fact, she's like, please, I do not want to have to do this. I know you were a good person somewhere in there, and she ends up electrocuting her. But I think she kind of assumed that because she had those superpowers, she was just going to be stunned. She wasn't
I mean,
murdered.
They showed Minerva recount her wish. Like she gave it up.
Did she? I missed that.
I figured she was one that didn't. To stay cheated.
She gave it up. She was sitting there crying, and she was just like, "Oh, I give up."
I thought
whatever.
It was more her.
But that was okay. But that was after she got electrocuted.
After she got electrocuted,
washed up, and she was back to her full human self again. Which, but here's the thing: at that point, it's so easy to recant your wish. It's like that didn't work out for me at all.
Look, the whole thing to me was just kind of like, you conveniently erased all of the stakes, especially through the gimmicky plot device of magic. Like, Man of Steel caught all this flack because Superman was going around destroying everything, and there were consequences that were realistic and all that.
And they stuck for the most part.
And again, I think that's more of the Snyder influence, right? But this movie, it just wraps everything up in such a convenient bow. I'm not saying Wonder Woman shouldn't win, but I'm just saying, like, you had the entire world, political structures, nuclear bombs on their way, and everything just magically resolves because everyone tells the truth. What?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I think they're already greenlit a spinoff where Barbara Minerva Cheetah has joined the cast of Cats in its 300s. Yeah,
that night setting sure hid some bad costuming and effects there. That's for sure.
Actually, her outfit at the end was much better than anybody in the Cats movie.
I agree with that. It wasn't very good, but it was better. Yeah.
I did have a problem though with the editing in this movie, because she literally popped up on the screen out of nowhere. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, I see. First of all, you cheated. You got
cheated.
She cheated by getting 2 wishes. You're only supposed to get 1 wish. Okay,
they
made a very big point about that. And I don't care about the loopholes. The loopholes are just, it's magic, whatever. But even after that, she's talking about like, well, I want to be an apex predator, blah, 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 whatever. There's no reference as to any connection as to why it needs to be a cheetah.
Because she was wearing the cheetah print outfit earlier.
Yeah,
I think he called it out.
Closer to a feral cat.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I look at her comic origin and go, hey, put some Mesoamerican roots in there and make it stronger.
See, once he became the Stone and he was on a plane, then he leaned in and was like, you've been so great for me. What else can I wish for
And he
you?
gave
It's
her
like,
another wish. And I'm just
Yeah.
sitting there like, at least, especially if we're doing the CGI, could we have gotten like some sort of transformation? Just a
Mhm.
couple
Given the
seconds.
CGI that we
Something.
got, I don't want to see a transformation.
well, you realize, guys, that was all during a nighttime action sequence.
Uh-huh.
That was good to hide a lot of it. It
Mhm.
was good to hide it.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was a
it-
whole Pacific Rim type action sequence. You know,
Well,
it all happens at night.
a couple of
didn't
the
mind that
close-ups of her face that we get, it almost looked like a completely different actress. I didn't get the sense that it was a
Guarantee
CG
Could have
Kristen
been.
Wiig. It looked like another actress with a
Yeah.
slighter nose or something.
Could have been a stunt woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have been. But yeah, I mean, as far as granting the additional wishes, I mean, we haven't talked a whole lot about Maxwell Lord. And I think one of the problems, if I had to speculate as to why his particular story is a bit of a mess, is it felt like the filmmakers were trying to shoehorn in more of a political 2020 message
Yes.
than a
Yeah.
coherent comic book story.
Yes.
Because this guy, think about who Maxwell Lord is in this movie. He is a 1980s, multi-millionaire mogul TV personality
Wanna
who
be
is
fake,
secret.
yeah.
Well, he's legit, but his empire is built on, a series of bankruptcies and
Well,
lies and
yeah.
shady business deals and all that stuff. But he
Hmm.
projects this image of confidence and, people, want to
con
beat
man.
him and all this stuff. Yeah, he's a con man.
Yeah.
And towards the end, he finagles his way into having the power of the presidency and the presidential platform, and going around the world making these, crazy, shady business dealings, all in the effort of gaining power and feeding his own ego as the one person who can grant everybody's wish.
Yeah.
Now, considering this movie was supposed to come out in July, and considering the climax of this film is literally a giant broadcast where Diana is pretty much looking right at the camera saying, see how horrible this is? The world's gone to shit, and you have the power to turn things back, i.e. go out and vote.
Mhm.
It's very much, it's a mess. And I understand what's going on there. I was really surprised that they took that extra step to humanize Maxwell Lord with a little bit of a backstory. I thought that was actually really touching.
Isn't that the one base item of Maxwell Lord they have is the I want to impress my son thing? Like that's
do you
the
mean?
one thing that Lord actually
was his
it
primary
comes from the
motivation.
comic.
It's that primarily because
Like
in
they
the
took
comics,
that one shred and brought it over.
It's that primarily because in the comics, he learned that his father had died of suicide, due to financial woes or whatever, and so it inspired him to not have that type of situation. And
Yeah.
I honestly, I kind of feel like if there was a little bit more time with him and the son, I know it's a 2.5-hour movie, but if there was a little bit more time, the son kind of felt like tacked on to me, like
Really?
a way to humanize him and get him out, of being this big bad. And
They could have used
with all the times that he just kind of like within earshot of his son, just totally kind of like lost his cool and totally like revealed his true self, like, oh, my son's here, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Sorry. It's
Yeah.
like, how many times do we do that? And then in the end, it just seemed weird that like his son goes to the computer or the monitor, the screen, saying, I wish you were back here. Okay, fine. But then he leaves.
Right.
I think like it's the I forget the name of the corporation. Yeah,
Black
that failed.
Gold.
Black Gold. He leaves the compound of Black Gold, the boy, his son, Alistair. He lives the compound of Black Gold, and he's like roaming like this the highway, this like highway ramp, like Dad. I'm like,
there's your editing again,
what's going
man.
on here? How does he know to like? Where is he going to? How does he know where to go? And he's just wandering the streets of DC. This little boy. I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, did they establish where Black Gold was? That is also in DC.
I think it must have been also in DC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not. I mean, yeah, it's a bad editing choice. I think if they'd done a little bit more establishment of at least the geography, we could understand why they were so close to each other. That didn't bother me so much. Partially because that. I think if they really wanted to do something that was a little tidier, when the kid says, "I wish you were here," if Maxwell Lord had like teleported into, the room with him or something, that would have been kind of fun.
Pull him away
Yeah.
from the climax, that can't happen then. Yeah.
Right.
That,
But
I mean, it would be more detrimental to what he's trying to do, and it would
Yeah.
definitely, it would be a better corrective thing than the mind wipe Zoom call.
Yeah. And I don't think that's the other thing people have pointed out is I don't think anybody got their mind wiped, because there
I don't
seems
know.
to be once the missiles are recalled, or they're not recalled, but they evaporate into these kind of like paper tissue things,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of a cool effect. There are people at NORAD or wherever saying the missiles just disappeared, sir. Well, if everything had been wiped and this had never happened, they would have been, what
Yeah.
missiles?
What
Like,
missiles?
Well, which
Yeah.
also goes back to EMan about like, if you're going to springboard this to the future, you have a really effed up world. That just is looking around going, shit, look at the mess we made.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I'm glad everything's okay. And oh my God, are you all right? But then it's like, crap, we hit every button and screwed up everything.
I think what ended up happening with this movie is Patty does a really good job of understanding what kind of themes that she wants to tackle for these films. The first one was the power of love, and this one is the power of the truth, and and those things are fine
Mhm.
abstractly, or intellectually. They make sense when you're pitching the movie. But I think she forgot to articulate and execute it in a way that was a little bit more familiar for main audiences. Because for me, it gets kind of cheesy when you're like, you got to remember the power of telling the truth and that the truth will set you free. Now I'm eye rolling the whole thing,
Yeah.
and honestly, I think that she should have done similar to the end of the first Wonder Woman movie, where it's one thing to have these themes exist physically and manifest in a physical way through the Greek gods and goddesses, right?
Mm.
I mean, you had the concept of war being portrayed and manifested through,
Ares.
Ares.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, where's this trickster god?
Mhm.
Like, I
Wow,
looked
Tom
at
Hiddleston
her-
was unavailable.
Where's
at the
her
time.
Loki?
Sorry, guys.
Right.
No,
I'm like,
Yeah.
where is this thing? Because that's kind of the thing about Wonder Woman is she is that bridge between, the mortal world and like the Greek gods and all this other supernatural stuff.
Thor.
And I'm like, you could have manifested that into an actual villain of some
Yeah.
sort to execute these things. Because look, at the end of the day, it's still a comic book movie. We still want to see, the good guy, good woman, hero defeat the villain or whatever. And just this whole like look deep in your hearts, and I'm like, are Care Bears coming next? What are we doing here?
It is
That would have
just
been
Thor.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just like, at least go defeat this guy, this evil god or whatever, and maybe then that releases the hold on everyone and you move on.
I
But
disagree. I think we got that at the end of the first Wonder Woman movie. I was thankful that we did not see the God of Mischief because, again, we saw that in the last film. I like the idea that we don't know what happened to this god. Maybe he got sucked into the stone or trapped there, or his essence was let free in this
Sure.
idea of being able to spread wishes and destruction. Like, we don't need to see an anthropomorphized version of that. It's just the idea. Now, I grant that whole thing with the golden Zoom call was, a bit cheesy. And again, I think it spoke more to what they were trying to say like big picture politically with
Yeah.
this movie than with
Her
anything
speech
else.
that delivers it is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Sure.
Wrong maybe place to put it, but great message. Totally.
Yeah, but as far as the themes of the film, I think I might be the one guy here who really did like what the Steve Trevor character was doing in this film and his contribution. The end, the climactic scene where it's not that Diana has to let him go; it's that he lets himself go.
Right.
Now, I guess partially that's easy because when he first comes back and she's like, "Where were you?" He's like, "I don't know. I was in this place that, seemed kind of nice." It's not like he's burning in hell somewhere. So it's like, well,
Right.
I'm kind of always going to be around. I'm going to be kind of Obi-Wanning it here.
Oh, Force Ghost.
oh,
Oh,
Right.
I didn't-
But when they part and she rounds that corner and then she breaks into that run and then shoots into the sky, and then Hans Zimmer, I'm going to stand up for Hans Zimmer's score. thought it was, as effective as it needed to be in the mixture with the cinematography in those bigger moments. In some cases, I did miss the guitar jam or whatever, but again, I also said I don't need to see as many action sequences in this thing, so I wasn't really missing it. But I think that was a really nice emotional moment. It reminded me another DC comic book movie callback, Superman. At the end, when he rewinds time to undo all the damage because of Lois Lane, when he's flying around the world and he's screaming because he's lost the love of his life, I got serious vibes of that coming off of mostly Gal Gadot's performance as she's running through all this chaos.
I didn't mind that.
I think that was right. You're right on that. Like, the number one thing I love about this movie is how it progresses Wonder Woman Diana's character, especially from one sequel to from one film to another. It constantly pushes her. And the way I titled my review was like, this is what a Wonder Woman did, what a Superman movie should have done or should be or whatever. And that's by giving us like a relatable, flawed, hero that deals with challenges even internally that you can't just muscle your way out of. Right. And at the end of the day, they still find a way to not only overcome them, but still be a beacon or, some sort of role model, for everyone else to aspire to and look up to. Yeah. So I agree. I like that portion of it. Now, the one thing I do kind of want to, maybe just ask you guys about was plot wise. I don't think Steve was really there. Like, I don't think Steve.
No, it's the it's like, the dude we see
in her mind.
Yes,
right? Like,
completely.
Right.
Everything was all in her mind.
Everybody else sees the dude, but she sees
the other dude.
But not only that, I'm just talking about like even the things that he says are all contrived from her mind. So I think that when Steve comes to these revelations of I really shouldn't be here, I think that's really Diana.
Probably, if you can interpret it that way,
talking to herself.
Maybe. This is a really good question, because I have seen online chatter people talking about how problematic it is that if Steve Trevor has returned and he's not like literally his bones coming out of the grave and he's just like reflesh or something, he seems to be possessing an actual walking around person who this other person I was looking like watching their stuff. They're like, okay, so did this guy in his other life, did he lose his job? Did he have like friends and family? Like, hey, where did you go?
Where'd you go for 2 weeks? Right.
Why are you talking so strange? What's it like sleeping with Wonder Woman? But
don't we all think that?
But EMan, you're picking up on something here that I would have to go back and watch the movie again for that kind of Bruce Willis thing. Did anybody else appear to interact with this person or
for the all? Time Diana's got him?
He existed.
Are we sure?
He hadn't.
That's his clothes. That's his apartment. That's all his things.
Plus, he was punching dudes, and
then the mirror. There's that mirror scene where we see the dude who's the actual dude.
I just want to see. I want to see a Sixth Sense version of this, where it's just Diana in her apartment, imagining it's this other guy's apartment. I want to see the version of the flight where Steve is punching people. And it turns out Diana's just punching people really fast.
I've seen this before online, and I have to agree with it. This is what I thought even before I saw this online. While I was watching the movie for the first time, I was like, "You mean to tell me she's been pining?" I know it's a pun. She's been pining over this guy for almost 70 years, and she knew him for like what, a week, if that.
To be fair,
it's Chris Pine. No,
it is Chris Pine.
It's Chris Pine. That's but also, she's like, I don't know, and I hate to use the stereotype, but she's
her
like
first
a virgin.
love.
Exaggerated.
Well, he deflowered her, right?
There's that. I didn't want to go that graphic with it, but I was just saying.
They had a nice night in France, did they not?
That was the first time she ever met a man. It's the first time she ever fell in love. And for a being that I would say time doesn't work the same way, because being a demigoddess, she ages differently.
Yeah.
And
like
having
no
that
aging
recall, having the perfect recall that David mentioned earlier.
And she took that picture of the ranch. I mean,
in the ranch, you can't discount the ranch. To me, it just made sense that
EMan, that's an excellent point, because it's just as we were talking about, like if she's a couple hundred years old, according to Amazonian time, that might be like 10 years. If it could be that Steve is just the boyfriend that she hasn't been able to get over for like 2 years.
That's why it would have been cool to have like Barbara really kind of develop a great friendship with Diana and saying, wait, how long have you known this guy? You need to get over him. You know how many guys are looking at
That
you
would be
everywhere
80s
you
of her to
go?
do. Yeah.
You need to get over him. Girl, let's go
Right.
out to the club. You know,
Right.
it's like something, you know.
She could be Meshaw Taylor
it
from
just seemed
Mannequin
really weird
and like
for-
get her out of her zone, you know?
I would.
it just almost seemed like it was like stagnating her growth, you know,
Yes.
to be, again, pining over this guy for so long. And then I almost feel like, as far as the decision to include him once again, it was like, well, they worked so well in the last
Right.
movie. Let's shoehorn him into this
Yeah.
movie and make it work. Like the fact that when they have to go to Egypt, she sneaks into the Smithsonian. I've never been to Smithsonian. I didn't know they had an air hangar. Cool. All right. So
With jets that are fueled up and ready to go.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
already knows.
That a guy who had 3 knobs and a stick can pilot instantly.
Take
Right.
your pick. Oh, I want
Not
that
big
one.
of a
And,
jump.
and I do like the way they developed the invisible jet. But the whole problem is
Hmm.
she wouldn't have been able
I
to
don't
get to
like that.
Egypt without
take
a
a
help
guess.
from a man.
Yeah.
And a man who is her true love. And I'm like,
Oh.
come on,
Well-
can't we have a Wonder Woman movie where she doesn't need a sidekick or she doesn't need help from a man? I mean,
That's fair.
I understand the first movie because
Especially
she's
for
a
the
fish out
message
of a
that she stands
water,
for. Right.
and she was introduced to man's world for the first movie. Great, but she's been alive. She's been around for 70-something years now,
Mhm.
and she can't function without the love of her life.
I don't think
know.
I don't think it's going there. I think what it is
She's been
she
fully
gets
capable.
Steve Trevor back. She realizes that there's some global villainy afoot, and she wants, she's getting ready to
Wants
go
to
back
be with
into
him.
action with
Yeah.
well, romantically, she doesn't want to let him go, literally.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, they were an ass-kicking team back in
Yeah.
World War One. So she's like,
Granted.
"You're going to be with me. You're my partner, and you also know how to fly a plane.
Yep.
You can get us there in a matter of hours." Plus, it leads to again, I think one of the lovelier kind of set pieces of this film is them flying above the fireworks. They're kind of the wonder of the cockpit, like he's getting to see the future. It's the reversal of what happened in the first movie, and I think in a much more charming and kind of affectionate way in a lot of ways.
It's still a half
Like
hour
when
you could
Superman
change.
flew Lois around Manhattan or Metropolis,
Yeah, but without the cheesy voiceover.
Can
Oh.
you hear
Can you
me?
read my mind?
No, because I always turn the sound down during that and just
There you
play the
go.
John Williams score.
The
on my
score's so
CD.
good until she starts talking. You're
Now,
right.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But like the lasso scene, because first of all, I really love the utilization of the
Ooh,
lasso.
I thought
that was
good.
awesome.
This is
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
I mean, look, when I'm
Inventive
seeing
stuff.
her lassoing on lightning, I'm like, yo, Spider-Man.
Fucking badass.
Lassoing a cloud to propel you?
No,
Wow,
I'm like,
that's
yo,
a
this is
solid
pretty dope.
cloud, bro.
You know, because Spider-Man has the issue of, web slinging into nothing,
Right.
but she's got lightning. So I'm like, yo, I can roll
Woo.
with this. But correct me if I'm wrong. Did she not only like sling from the lightning with her lasso, but when she eventually learned how to fly, which made no sense, but
Yeah.
when she eventually learned it, did she start lassoing again?
When she learned how to fly,
Like after she learned how to fly?
I think she was doing both. You know,
And that
like
makes
yeah.
no sense. That's like,
Training
hey, I
wheels.
just want a new car after walking forever, but let me go back to walking and taking the bus.
Well, the lasso is, the
I have
lasso
the
is
car.
kind of.
The lasso of bus. Got
It's
it.
an
I have the
appendage.
car. I don't need the bus anymore.
It's an extension of her power.
I was kind of going there, David. I feel like the ability to fly and being able to, propel yourself with that lasso both could come in handy.
Sure.
It's almost like, okay, so in the
Flying, lassoing.
like
Well, but it's not just like roping steer or something. I mean, she's able to swing, and if she's able to control the speed and the body movements while she's flying through the air, I think it could be. I'm not a
Yeah.
physics expert. I just feel like they could complement each other.
And that lasso sure gets longer when you need it to, by the way.
well,
Like they
right,
had some
you
fun
know.
with that.
Magic.
again,
Yeah.
it took her decades to figure out that she could fly on her own. Why? Because a man that she loved came back into her life
Oh,
and
God,
reminded
here it
her
is.
what it takes to
Here it is.
fly. You
But-
just gotta catch
But she
the
didn't. But she
waves
never.
and-
But she never
had nothing to
flew
do with it.
before. It's like she discovered something about her that she didn't even realize she could do. And even when she's flying towards the end, she's kind of like hurtling through the clouds, and she discovers this sort of mastery of it by going back to a powerful memory and something that Steve said. I don't think it's the sexes thing. I mean, I feel
I
like
don't think it's that either, but
I don't think so.
the tone, the vibe.
It's
is
just
there. I
very
get it.
coincidental. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I get the
Different
coincidental.
critics
I
of
don't
a
think I
different
don't think there's
chromosome will
I don't think there's a causation.
call that for
I don't think
offense.
it's overtly sexist. It's just very convenient that like he comes back into her life and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know, her eyes are opened about this new ability that she has. Okay.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, like that whole scene in the trench where Luke's in the X-wing, and all of a sudden he remembers to like stretch out his feelings and just like trust his instincts, like that old guy told him. I mean, that's just garbage, right?
I
It
look,
is.
I was more surprised that she remembered anything about her father, Zeus. You know, because she was like, "Oh yeah, this was a old trick that my dad did." I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, you talked to
yeah.
Zeus?
Yeah.
Like, I
And
don't recall him even
considering-
being really
You weren't
active.
tight before.
Like,
Yeah.
how did that? And you just happen to remember this invisibility trick? Like,
My mother told me that this is what my father used.
see, now, if she had told me like, "Oh, you know, my mother, you know, she did this because that's how they hid the mascara."
Yeah.
Ooh, your daddy taught you what?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he straight
I
up
know Papa
disappeared.
was a Rolling Stone, but I didn't know he was teaching you stuff too. Like what?
I also rolled my eyes when the whole a superpowered being. I mean, look, in the comics and in the animated series Justice League, she's on par with Superman.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah,
So
she
so
is.
when my wife said, "Wait, she could fly," I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Let me break out my Justice League
Yeah.
Blu-ray
Mhm.
set.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
the
sure she loves that
animated-
when you do
yeah,
that.
And that came later
She's
in the
like,
comics.
ah,
She
but-
started off with the invisible jet, and then later,
right.
you know, to
Yeah.
equalize her with.
But the whole idea of like it, I think it's just kind of sometimes writers don't know what to do when beings are too powerful. You know,
But that surprises
it's
me
hard to
because-
write a good Superman story.
Sure.
So then they have to take down their powers or take away their powers. That's why
Yeah.
kryptonite was invented. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing is like you can only do so much with an all-powerful being.
But this
But
is
the
why
fact that she started losing her power because of the rock, you know, the whole monkey paw thing,
Yeah.
I just
And
felt
I'm
like, wow,
surpri-
we're tacking this on too.
Well, I'm surprised because of who's writing this too. Like
right.
Jeff Johns
Jeff
knows
Johns
better
should do
than
better,
this. Come on.
Honestly,
Better than this.
Really? I mean, he kind of co-wrote Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds,
I know.
and he threw the kitchen sink
Yeah.
in the Aquaman screenplay
I
It's
don't.
so-
crazy
but I-
that he's not good at movies, but he's
No.
phenomenal with comics.
with comics.
I mean, something happens when he gets to that conference room, like, "Hey guys," like, and he brings all of his cocktail napkins of ideas, and they're like, "Piss on your ideas."
But
Jeff,
in fairness, in comics, you have more like if it was a series, like a
Mhm.
TV series,
Sure.
you have more
Agreed.
time to develop
Right,
things.
right.
I don't think he works. You know, it's the same way how like some television directors can't really do, you know, movies, and sometimes vice versa. But
Yeah.
my thing was this, like, especially with the you know, the overpowering and the flying and stuff. If that also felt kind of shoehorned in, like I was like, oh, this is cool fan service, but it adds nothing to the actual story. It adds nothing to it.
I disagree. I think it adds to. You were saying that this movie provides us with some growth for her as a character,
As
and
a
I think that you know, her tapping into that potential provides us with some growth for Diana Wonder Woman.
I don't
You know?
think
Right.
that was executed properly. Now, if you were
I
to sit
agree with
there and
that.
tell me, like, and I hate to use this example because I didn't like how they handled it in Captain Marvel either, but at least in Captain Marvel, she magically learned how to fly because she was falling, and okay, maybe instincts kicked in, and now she
Sure.
tapped in.
Sure.
Mhm.
With Diana, there was no real reason for her to learn how to fly, tap into flying. It just happened.
She was
I'm just
inspired by love.
From a man.
You know, as far as Jeff Johns, I wish they would have replaced him with Greg Rucka, because Greg
I'll take
Rucka
that.
is a great Wonder Woman
Yeah.
writer. He
Did he
really
get
did
to-
a phenomenal job with this story right here.
Did he get to pen his own screenplay for the Old Guard this
Old
summer?
Guard. He did.
Yes.
So
And what's cool
That's
is
a strong female character.
I was thinking about
Imagine a
Old
little
Guard.
bit of that here.
I was thinking about Old Guard while watching this, just because I really think there's an untapped potential in this story to deal with, or just the Wonder Woman story in general, is just to deal with the weight of immortality. And I think that they did a great job on that with Old Guard. You know,
Mhm.
Greg Rucka got to write his, you know, screenplay, adapt his work. I think they could have at least included a little bit
they
more.
tried.
They tried. I mean, the thing is, it again, it goes
Steve
back.
is a testament to a lot of that.
But then it goes back to this whole pining thing. It's not the weight of living forever. It's just I miss my true love.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
and
we
it-
never see her miss the other folks from World War One, and
or
you know,
the
I mean, we see
mascara.
the
She
little
can never
pictures.
return to there.
But I'm just saying, like, we don't see the weight that you're talking about because they just kind of throw it in there. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, it was all just, you know, I miss that love.
And I wonder how much
it wasn't because of the time. You know,
No.
it wasn't because of the fact that she lives long. That was it. It was just the
It
fact
could
that
be,
it was
though.
an event that happened.
Well, I wonder how much of this is a consequence of DC Warner Brothers having botched their cinematic universe out of the gate. I think they've spent so much time in the last, 5 years trying to clean up and trying to do these kind of standalone stories and all of this, that if they had been successful at the Marvel formula, you could have seen Wonder Woman's story, kind of like what you're talking about, play out in other movies and
Right,
tie in thematically, which I would have liked to have seen, but I just don't think we're going to get that
Sure.
here.
No.
Now, the one thing, I think we can kind of wrap up in a few here, but I heard there was a cameo at the end of this movie,
You didn't
and
see it? You didn't see it?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But when I heard that there was one, I was thinking about the time period, and I had an idea of what would have been a really weird, oddly placed, but kind of cool cameo. And it wasn't that at all. It was Linda Carter showing up as the
Asteria.
Asteria,
It was
who was
the owner of the stuff.
The
yeah,
golden
she
eagle
there was
armor.
the golden armor, which we didn't really even
The
talk
one who
about, but
stayed
it's
behind
I thought
yeah,
she died.
to live among men.
but
No.
but does she die?
I
Like
thought
ever?
she did.
No. Maybe people thought she died, but she lived on. I don't know.
Yeah.
But she had the golden eagle armor or whatever that is kind of all over the advertising that shows up to aid
So
Diana
that's
in the at the end in her fight against Cheetah. And at the very end, we see Linda Carter walking through a city. She saves a little kid from a pole falling on her or something, and literally turns around and winks at the camera. I thought it would have been fun, considering the blockbuster that we had last year around this time, considering it's 1984. Oh, what? Sorry, my phone just went off and saying, sorry, I can't do that. I don't know what's going
Well, you
on.
better stop
in the
your
voice of
thought right
Linda
now.
Carter.
here.
I can't
Yeah.
speculate on my cameo.
Okay.
No, Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker, because this is 1984, which would have been right about the around the same time as the Joker movie, like the late
Yeah, but-
70s, the early 80s.
I'm with you, man. All that's in his head.
Well, but it didn't have to be. No, I was just thinking
Better than
that
it isn't.
would have been fun if he had been in the asylum and saw Maxwell Lord on
Right.
TV saying, "I wish
I-
I wish I could be the clown prince of crime," and all
Now,
of a
that
sudden,
would be interesting.
and then he
that would be
transforms into
interesting.
Jared Leto.
No, gosh, right. Yeah.
I didn't
I don't have
mind
a
that
problem.
cameo that
Me neither.
much. I mean, look, Linda
It was fun.
Carter's
It was whatever.
amazing. She's great. I mean, she earned that cameo. Okay.
Exactly.
I'm
You
glad
can't
she
tell
wasn't.
me.
I'm glad she
You
wasn't
can't
in
tell
the
me if
movie.
Christopher Reeve wasn't alive today, Snyder wouldn't have thrown him into one of these
Somewhere.
three.
He would have been
supermovies.
Jor-El, dude. Come
You're
on.
damn right.
Sure. I mean,
You've
the
been Perry White even at that
the
point.
Flash
Something.
TV
Possibly,
series did it.
look, pre-accident, Christopher Reeve would have been Jor-El, but he wasn't doing a
Mhm.
whole lot. I mean,
Well, no,
even his
that's what I
cameo.
mean. If he never had his accident.
Oh,
sure.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I hate to discourage David here, but Chris Pine will come back once they do Crisis.
Oh, of course.
No,
you know,
God, or the
once they do
Flashpoint stuff
Crisis
we're doing
and they
here.
bring all
You
the
think they'll
people
do it?
back,
I don't think
or
they'll do
Flashpoint,
Christ.
whichever one they want to
Yeah,
do.
because all of a sudden, Flashpoint is looking like the poor man Spider-Man 3 right now.
It
'Cause,
is
like,
very
all these, like,
interesting
Michael
In fairness,
Keaton,
DC. I want to say
you
DC
know,
did
Ben
it first.
Affleck.
I want to
DC
say
started
did it
first, yes.
with the TV stuff.
Well, not even that. Even in the comics, like
Mhm.
with the multiverse and
Yeah,
all
they
this
did it
other
first.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
No
then
fan-
into
oh,
TV, and
yeah.
now
No
into
casual
Oh.
fans ever going to admit that, but we know.
Oh, for a long
Yeah.
time, DC Comics is always they were the first to do this whole multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they had Justice Society of America and Justice League and
Yeah.
all the two Earths and
Mhm.
Crisis on Multiple Earths, all that stuff.
But it's a perfect cinematic retcon, and I've been saying for the longest point, Flashpoint needs to be that thing that
Mhm.
brings
Sure,
the
it-
best of DC and DCEU
Yeah.
together.
It
So
could be.
if you like the Joker because Joaquin Phoenix's worked, you can now bring him in. There's a plausible excuse. If you want to get rid of all the Snyder stuff, you can do that. You know, if you want to bring just some of it, you can do that
Mhm.
too. So
It could be, but honestly, not a lot of that kind of thing translates well to the big screen.
No,
well,
it
we
fit
don't
the
know
small
yet.
screen stuff. What was it? This past season in all the DC
Yeah,
CW shows, like
Well, that's what I'm saying. DC's done
it
a really
worked
good
there
job with
because
the
you could
TV
space it.
stuff. Yeah,
Sure.
they've done a really good job with the TV stuff because,
crossovers, all that.
like EMan said, you could do more with episodic television
Yeah.
and build to something like that and have
Yeah.
crossovers like that. That makes sense. But to have a sole movie like Flashpoint, like
But you know what?
there's so many actors and characters being mentioned
Yeah.
and listed
Oh my
in the
gosh,
new
it's
Flash
bad.
movie
Mhm.
that I hope we don't see Ezra Miller at all. It's like
No, but I think
I don't want to see Tom Holland either.
I forgot if it was Ian or David
true.
that made the point. I think it is something that can happen over the course of number of movies. So, for example, even the Spider-Man 3 thing, that's not just going to happen just because. It's going to start off with WandaVision crossing over into Doctor Strange 2.
Strange.
Then
Yeah.
that's going to do some
Yeah.
ripple effect.
And
Spider-Man's
maybe that's
gonna
what you're.
appear in Doctor Strange 2, and then boom, that's how we have
Well, I
the
mean,
after effect.
But that's because Marvel's built to that, and that's
Yeah.
how,
and
but I'm-
DC's
we're
throwing
used
no
to
bones
that.
at
Yeah,
that.
I'm just saying that I think Flashpoint will be the equivalent of Doctor Strange multiverse of madness or whatever, and
Maybe.
then you see the ripple effects later. In
But
other-
even then, they're rushing because
True.
I don't want to say we have to do the Marvel blueprint, that's the only way, but then somewhere in Aquaman, in Joker, in this,
It should have been planted.
you got to
whole
plant
time.
something more than what they're doing because they're
Yeah.
planting nothing and connecting nothing. Now, if all they can ever do is one-offs and series, I'm ready for Aquaman 2, continuing whatever they did with Aquaman 1. I don't need it to be a Justice League thing. I know at some point they will,
Ooh,
but like, yeah, I question the smart planning.
I
Because to
think
do something like that, you need smart planning. And I see Jeff John's name on this and go, where is it?
but they also
We need
already
a czar.
greenlit a Themyscira series.
Yeah, but where's that going? Because they
It's
announced
probably
that after the
HBO
first movie.
It's probably
Or
HBO Max at this point.
with the Teen Titans show
It'll be
that's
an
on
HBO
DC
Max
stream,
exclusive.
right?
Right, but I mean, if they do the Themyscira stuff, which I actually would look forward to, I want to see more of that. You do that, you already see that Justice League, the Snyder Cut, is being broken up, as an episodic format now. So,
That's a show in March for us.
Are they doing reshoots for that? Because it's like, how
Yeah,
much?
they already
How
did.
much? They already did.
Yeah.
They called everybody back.
They called everybody back.
yeah, I mean, they're doing like audio
threw-
stuff,
so-
voices.
They
So
threw like
weird.
$70 million at that, didn't they?
It's
Something
not-
crazy.
That's because of his visual effects. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was Gal Gadot that said she had not gone back for like actual reshoot, but doing voiceovers. Saying,
Okay.
So
Interesting.
you'll probably get like the voiceovers in the intro, outro,
Oh boy.
and together we will protect the world.
Right.
Mm.
'Cause-
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and there'll definitely be more stuff for us to talk about in relation to DC and Marvel, and God knows what else, comics to movies related and TV shows in 2021. This is actually our last roundtable of 2020. I can't
Ah.
believe it.
There is.
Yes, but thank you very much, guys, for taking this journey with me. I, was not a fan of the original Wonder Woman, or
You
the
were not.
2017 version at all.
Mhm.
I like this movie a lot more than I liked the first Wonder Woman. I know I'm in the minority of that, mostly because for whatever narrative problems it has and some of the dodgy effects, and yeah, sure, even the score, I think it had tremendous amount of heart and wonder in it. It is, I think that Patty Jenkins moving away from that Snyder imprint in a lot of ways is a positive for this film, because I don't think Zack Snyder could have told this story. I don't know that he would have. I think
I agree.
I liked Maxwell Lord. I really loved Pedro Pascal
Mm.
in this film as far as his performance. I think
He's a
he's one of
busy
the
man.
more remarkable villains we've had in recent comics movies. But it's just it's unfortunate that it's as messy as it is. But having said that, I really did kind of love it, and it's getting some mixed reaction out there, which is kind of unfortunate
Oh,
for everybody
mixed is-
involved.
Mixed
yeah.
is a
Mixed
kind word.
Kind word, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I hope that doesn't affect, because Patty Jenkins, she's going to be doing a Star Wars movie next, right? And then
Mhm,
possibly
yep.
getting involved in Wonder Woman 3 like
Rogue
years
Squadron.
down the
I
road.
think that'll be better for her, is
Yeah.
to do a series rather than these movies. I mean, I know you said that. I think not having the Snyder influencer hurt her, because I think a lot of things that this movie is all her, right? Like this is her baby,
Yeah.
which means the positive things that she did and the negatives.
Are you saying,
Right.
EMan, are you saying she needs a man in order to make a better movie?
No,
No,
not
I
at
know.
all.
I'm
Not
just
at
kidding.
all. But I do think she should be held accountable, for
That's fair.
everything that she's doing.
Well, they
Because,
gave her
again, they gave you
yeah.
the full reins. You got to eat the good with the bad, But in terms of the mixed reaction, I really think a lot of that just had to do with expectations.
Could be.
Because I honestly think if this movie had came out in theaters, people would have trashed this way more. But the expectations, the hype going into this was excelled proportionally,
Yeah.
especially, with the announcement being on HBO Max. And this is, you're following in the footsteps of like a rather successful first film.
Yeah.
There was a lot going into this, and it just.
I
think-
stayed away. I didn't watch the trailer.
Well, I mean, I watched.
You
one
had me
trailer.
at Wonder Woman in '84. I'm like, okay, I'll be there.
For me, I went into it with lowered expectations already. And that was really just because when I heard that the main villain was Cheetah, I mean, even from last year, I was like, ugh, downgrade. Because I just didn't see the story being compelling enough. Even with the Maxwell Lord, I didn't even care about Maxwell Lord. I was just like, Cheetah, this doesn't seem like it's gonna have the same stakes as the first Wonder Woman movie did, and nor the same impact. So for me, I'm kind of like Ian. Like, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was okay. But again, my expectations for it were already low. A lot of people were like, this needs to be equal or better than the first. And I don't think it ever was set.
I would have been happy with different and new, which didn't really have there's some different stuff, but not a lot of new stuff.
Sure.
We didn't really touch on the fact that Diana has awful taste in men's clothing. How she came up with that as her favorite outfit, this whole blousey, scarfy pirate thing.
That's not a Greek thing? Come on.
See, I can't speak to that because I was born in the 80s, so I don't know if that was.
Dude, you wouldn't have worn that. You wouldn't have worn that.
I mean, I wouldn't have worn a lot of things in this movie, but
all of us are looking back and going, what were we doing?
But it is rare to see a whole montage of trying on clothes when it's a guy.
When it's the guy,
it's usually typically it's a woman
trim.
But
I didn't mind it.
There was so many of those things kind of sprinkled out throughout, like when that guy was getting, I think, microfiche for Barbara, and he's like, coffee, tea, me. I'm like,
yeah.
Like,
no, for me, don't have to be mad.
Yeah. No, for me, my closing thought is I'm so relieved, and I'm higher. I gave it a 3 out of 5 instead of a 2 because what saved it for me was it's Gal Gadot. She's fantastic, and it's victory in itself that a Wonder Woman. The problem with a Wonder Woman movie isn't Wonder Woman. Thank goodness, because how many times do we watch some of these other movies where there's an aesthetic of this or something that's cool, but then the main character is just a dud, or just mishandled.
Green Lantern.
Yes, exactly. Like, I don't mind like modern effects in Green Lantern. I don't mind a lot of the things in Green Lantern, and then you get to Ryan Reynolds and like, oh, that guy. And I get it. He looks great and he could fill that suit, but he's from a different movie. And I know everyone years ago was just not on an Israeli model being this part, and they wanted Gina Carano, they wanted this or that. And
oh man,
and I know, but to see her, like EMan said, to see not only the character grow but the actress grow was really cool. She exceeds as the best part of this movie, and that's victory in itself for me, and was worth it. Just to see her get better. I like, and the last thing I'll say is and I like heroes that are true blue. Like, I'm a Captain America guy, I'm a Superman guy. Yeah. And she's on that paragon level of being a true blue. None of this anti-hero stereotype, none of these emotive, mopey flaws for the sake of, the archetype of the anti-hero that is so in vogue and so popular. Like, she's not Wolverine. She's not, she's not Gambit. She's true blue. And I love that about her. And I'm glad she stays that way. Yeah. And they didn't reduce her in any way. Even though they took away her powers for a little bit, she didn't turn into something else. She stayed true blue, and like, because you know that character comes from that place and is that level. When she's even though it's the crazy Zoom call, when she's given that speech, there's a half lump in my throat because man, she's really speaking it. She's really living it, and I like
feeling
that.
it. She's
Yeah.
feeling it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Don. I also like the consistency of her character throughout, even the dark, grim and gritty Snyder characters.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing, I was not a fan of Gal Gadot in the original Wonder Woman. I thought she filled out the suit nice, and she was the star of the movie, I guess. But I think part of my issue with it was it just felt very much like a generic comic book movie. People compared it to Captain America: First Avenger. I'm like, yeah, it's all there, except with the different gendered superhero and a slightly different war. But in this movie, I mean, I was really affected by the relationship between her and Chris Pine. I'm going to confess to something as my closing gambit here. I cried twice during this movie, which I was not expecting at all. But
2 parts.
Pop tarts.
What 2 parts?
No, not no. It was. It was when Diana and Steve when they let each other go.
Yes.
And then also when Maxwell Lord was reunited with his son, and we get that little bit of backstory, and they're kind of hugging each other, and it really comes through. It reminded me of Soul, actually. The idea of Maxwell Lord. Yes, he became a real villain by the end of this, but sort of the roots of that were he poured himself so much into becoming something, into getting into that zone that he never found his way out. And he just kept building, through lies, right? But it was something that you ostensibly get the idea. It came from a place of pain that then transformed from other people are kind of oppressing me to I'm going to become the person who people are going to answer to. And I'm going to be the one who can make everybody's dreams come true because nobody could make mine come true when I was a kid. So I like that angle. I think that could have been developed more perhaps in a different movie. Maybe, yes, if you took out that secondary villain, some of this other weird plot stuff. I didn't get the thing in Egypt with the wall. I had to go back and rewatch that scene again. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah,
there's a wall going on.
The wish. I was like, wait, what? You want the land back? But what? I didn't get that complexity at all.
Yeah.
Careful what you wish for.
Right. Well, I wish that we could conclude this conversation as we were trying to 15 minutes ago. Not that I don't enjoy everyone's commentary. I just realized that we're all up late. But thank you guys very much again for talking Wonder Woman 1984. David Fowley of Keeping It Real. Don Shanahan, Every Movie Has a Lesson. Emmanuel Noisette from EMan's Movie Reviews. This has been tremendous. I can't wait for 2021 because we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about as Earth's Mightiest Critics. Please follow everybody out there watching this or listening to this. Follow all my friends and colleagues on their various social media and websites. You can check the link in the description links. And till then, happy new year, early new year, I guess. It's got to be better than this one.
Clean slate, guys.
Clean slate, yes. We're not gonna get a copyright strike for that, are we? No.
I hope. Well, I was trying to sing it so you wouldn't get it.
Thank you. All right, take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.